The Girl We Loved Back then got a different ending than the original. The sensibilities of Taiwanese movies are very similar to those of Korea. The Taiwanese romance genre is very reminiscent of the Korean sensibility of the 90s, with its innocent love stories and the way it depicts the struggles and growth of young people. That's why many people love Taiwanese romance films. From the emotional background music and lyrical direction to the stories that evoke nostalgic memories of first love, Taiwanese films resonate with Korean audiences. How did the Korean remake change things? The Korean remake of the hit movie that time, The Girl We Loved, is finally here. Although the original was a Taiwanese movie, it was also a favorite in Japan and other countries. In Japan, it was already remade in 2018 and received a lot of attention, but in Korea, this new adaptation will be released in theaters. I was curious to see how they would translate the emotions of the original movie into a Korean context. Do you think it would resonate with Korean audiences? Whenever a remake comes out, there are always comparisons. And it was important to see if we could capture the emotion of the original while adding our own Korean flavor. In particular, many fans were curious about whether the ending of the movie would be different from the original. Will the ending be different from the original? Honestly, the ending was the part I was most curious about. I remember watching the original movie and being somewhat shocked by the final scene. The emotional line flowed naturally, but the ending took an unexpected turn that left me a little disappointed. Korean audiences, in particular, tend to prefer an open ending or a somewhat happy ending. So I was curious to see if the original ending would remain the same or be changed to reflect Korean sensibilities. Da-hyun's performance, half anticipation, half worry. One of the most eye-catching aspects of the movie trailer was Twice member Da-hyun. While former idols are often cast in lead roles, this was Da-hyun's first foray into serious acting, so I was curious to see if she would be able to pull off the role. It was an unusual choice for Da-hyun, who had no previous acting experience, to be cast in the lead role. Although she was ultimately cast through an audition, it must have been difficult for her to take on the lead role in her first acting endeavor, and I wondered if she would be able to pull off the character naturally. The actors' performances and emotional lines. While watching the movie, I found that while the actors were fine in normal situations and expressing their emotional lines, they sometimes felt a bit unnatural in scenes where emotions were heightened. However, this was understandable given the overall atmosphere and characterization. In particular, Junyoung's performance still felt like a good fit for the role of a high school student. Although her age is a bit different from her actual age, she didn't feel awkward playing the role of a high school student, and she captured the youthfulness of a student well. Changing the time period. The original movie was set in Taiwan, but for the Korean remake, the time period was set in 2002. The movie opens with the story of the 2002 World Cup, narrated by Jinwoo, who introduces his friends, and finally introduces Oh Soo-na, played by Da-hyun. The movie stood out because it followed the flow of the original story, but also reflected Korean sentiment. During the first meeting between Soo-na and Jinwoo, Oh Soo-na is shown as a character who is popular not only in her class, but also at school. She studies well and has a charming personality, while Jinwoo is portrayed as a mischievous student who is not interested in studying. Their first meeting begins with an order from their teacher, who assigns Soo-na to teach Jinwoo because she is a good student. How the relationship would develop between two people with diametrically opposite personalities was one of the main points of interest in the movie. The story during school and after graduation. The movie is divided into two parts. One half is about their high school years, and the other half is about their post-graduation years. I found the high school episodes to be more entertaining, with a lot of mischievous scenes with friends. In particular, the mischievous scenes with Jinwoo and his friends were hilarious and captured the feeling of being a student at the time. This is one of the things that makes the movie so enjoyable to watch. Depth of romance. While romance is at the center of the film, the romance between Suna and Jinwoo is not overly emphasized. While there are important emotional lines and dating scenes, they are not emphasized more than other elements. Nevertheless, the scene where they are together in the rain at the bus station was impressive. The emotions between the two were maximized in this scene, and it left a strong impression on the audience. At the end, when Jinwoo becomes a webtoonist, it seemed like there would be a twist in the story. But it was wrapped up in a way that faithfully followed the flow of the original. Ending: differences from the original. Compared to the ending of the Taiwanese film, the remake ended in a slightly different way. It ends with a wedding scene like the original. But I felt that the Korean version was trying to capture a different emotion. Personally, I would have liked to see an ending that emphasized more Korean colors. But overall, I think it was good that they managed to keep the emotion of the original, while making it familiar to Korean audiences. If you're a fan of the teen romance genre, you'll definitely enjoy this remake. If you've seen the original, you'll enjoy discovering a new interpretation with a uniquely Korean flavor. And if you haven't seen the original, you'll enjoy it even more.